Wikileaks. Since 2006, this site, with its charismatic founder Julian Assange, has been exposing the facts those in charge don't want you to know about. It has humbled big corporations, brought down governments, and may have changed the course of the presidential election. Here is our top 10 WikiLeaks discoveries you need to know about.
Amazing!
Number 10. The Trafigura Report. In 2009, WikiLeaks sent environmentalists crazy when they published documents about the oil giant Trafigura. They managed to obtain an internal report by a scientist called John Minton, which said the waste Trafigura dumped off the west coast of Africa was potentially hazardous. Possible effects of coming into contact with this waste included burns to the skin, eye damage, and even death. Trafigura went to court to try and stop UK newspaper The Guardian from exposing the report, but once WikiLeaks got a hold of it, the truth came out. In 2010, Trafigura, as part of an out-of-court settlement, paid $46 million out to victims of this environmental disaster. This is a great example of WikiLeaks bringing the work of big corporations out into the open, which is why it's kicking off this top 10. Number 9. The Trans-Pacific Partnership. The Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, is a trade deal between 12 countries around the Pacific Ocean, including the US, Australia, and Japan. It was signed in 2016 after 7 years of secret negotiations, but is still waiting to be ratified. The details of the deal have not been made public, but in 2015 WikiLeaks revealed a lot of its content, and according to some, it doesn't look good. WikiLeaks revealed that it contains proposals to extend intellectual property rights which could deny poorer people access to medicines. They also told us about moves to limit freedom of information. Countries would have the right to limit the flow of information to the public if they thought the information was embarrassing or detrimental to their economic interests. This is WikiLeaks reporting on a plan that would have made what they do illegal. It's also WikiLeaks essentially highlighting why we need them now more than ever. Number 8. The Great Firewall of Australia. In 2009, the Australian government decided that some of the internet was unsuitable for the delicate eyes of Australian people. They drew up a blacklist of websites with a view of getting them blocked permanently. Unfortunately for them, WikiLeaks found this list and published it to the world. It turned out that many of the sites on this list were pretty harmless, including Wikipedia sites, a website for a travel agent, and a dentist in Queensland. Number 7. The AKP Party in Turkey. In July 2016, WikiLeaks came across a treasure trove of 300,000 emails from the service of President Erdogan's party and leaked them to the world. WikiLeaks were sitting on this cache of emails dating back to 2010, but after narrowly surviving a violent military coup, Erdogan's government used draconian tactics to cling on to power, detaining and purging thousands of police officers, judges, and teachers. WikiLeaks decided to publish the email straight away. Unfortunately, they also managed to leak a database containing the personal details of hundreds of thousands of Turkish women. Their names, addresses, emails, and phone numbers were published, putting these women in danger from stalkers and identity thieves. You could say this one backfired on WikiLeaks, but it was still a huge revelation. Number 6. Scientology. In 2008, WikiLeaks published what they called the Collected Secret Bibles of Scientology. Previously, not much was known about this secretive religion, founded by L. Ron Hubbard, and counting John Travolta and Tom Cruise among its number. Journalists and documentary makers have been trying for years to expose Scientology without much luck. WikiLeaks offered the world enlightenment. The document said there are 8 levels of opening thetans, a league table of Scientologists where level 8 is the highest. If you're a level 8, you're the best a Scientologist can be. Arguably, a lot of it also made no sense at all. Number 5. Cablegate. This was in 2010 when WikiLeaks released 44 years worth of messages from the US State Department. This was the leak that made a star of Chelsea Manning, then known as Bradley, who downloaded the documents and gave them to WikiLeaks. Among the messages leaked included not-so-complimentary views American diplomats held of well-known world leaders. Then French President Nicolas Sarkozy was called an emperor with no clothes, and Russian PM Dmitry Medvedev was referred to as Robin to Vladimir Putin's Batman. Awkward. This incident sparked intensified concerns that WikiLeaks should be considered as a serious threat to national security. As Julian Assange became a wanted man, corporations like Visa, Apple, and PayPal stopped dealing with WikiLeaks. Number 4. The Guantanamo Bay Papers. In 2007, WikiLeaks got hold of the staff operating handbook for Camp Delta at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. This is the U.S. Army prison where many terror suspects were held after 9/11. Human rights activists were enraged by the revelations exposed by this manual, such as how U.S. officers could withhold prisoners access to the Red Cross for up to 4 weeks. The manual also stated that when prisoners behaved well, they received special rewards, like a roll of toilet paper. Now that's one hell of a shitty prize in my books. In short, this leak exposed some pretty awful human rights abuses being committed at Guantanamo Bay. Number 3. The 9/11 pager data. In 2009, WikiLeaks released more than 500,000 pager messages sent in the US on the day of the 9/11 attacks 8 years earlier. Pagers are what people used to send text messages before mobiles, by the way. Most messages were from ordinary people, sending things like "I'm okay and I love you XOXOXO" or "Still in my apartment, nowhere to go, this is the end of the world as we know it." The release stirred up controversy over whether it was right to publish these intensely personal messages on such a tragic day. A WikiLeaks spokesman defended the leak as one more building block of getting the full picture to what happened that day. These messages provided a snapshot of ordinary people trying to make sense of a day that made no sense at all. They could be studied as historical documents in years to come. Number 2. 2016's U.S. presidential election leaks. During the recent campaign, there has been a series of leaks, all concerning the Democrats and their candidate, Hillary Clinton. In July, they leaked a batch of emails and files from the server of the Democratic National Committee. Some emails contained the names and personal details of big Democratic donors. Other emails detailed how the Democratic Party establishment favored Hillary over her rival for the nomination, Bernie Sanders, calling his campaign a mess. In October came the leak of emails and documents from the account of Hillary's campaign manager, John Podesta. The most damaging parts of this leak were details of the speeches Hillary had given to Wall Street banks before she ran for president. In one of them, she said, "My dream is a hemispheric common market, with open trade and open borders." This did not match the views she was prompting on her campaign. It made her look like she took different positions in private and in public. Most of the world was still expecting Hillary to win the election, but she didn't. We have President Trump. The question is, how big a part did WikiLeaks play in this surprise of result? Number 1. The Iraq collateral murder video. In 2010, WikiLeaks published a video filmed from a U.S. Army helicopter as it took part in an airstrike over Baghdad during 2007. 15 people were shown being shot dead, including 2 Reuters journalists, whose cameras they mistook for guns. The helicopter's crew were laughing and saying, "Light 'em up and keep shooting." After the shooting, the video shows U.S. forces firing on a van that had stopped to pick up the dead bodies, a war crime. The world was horrified when this footage was released by WikiLeaks. That's why it's our number 1. So that's it. 10 WikiLeaks discoveries that made the world laugh, cry, and get angry. Which WikiLeaks do you think is the most revealing? Leave a comment to let us know. Thanks for watching.